Shaping Strategy, the APR Journey, is Season 2 of the INSPIR podcast, produced by the National School Public Relations Association in partnership with INSPIR's Accreditation Committee. Released during APR Month in 2026, this limited series explores every stage of the APR journey, from what to consider before starting to how accreditation shapes professional practice and what it reveals about growth, strategy, and the profession. I'm your host, Christina Baumgartner, APR. On today's episode, APRs and PhDs and CPCs, oh my! We talk to three members who have both their accreditation in public relations as well as other academic and industry credentials. We will hear more about the difference between each one and how it has made them more strategic in their approach to their work. Dr. Jordan Ziemer, APR, is the Executive Director of Communications for Abilene ISD in Abilene, Texas, and serves as President of the Texas School Public Relations Association. He leads an award-winning team of communications, public relations, and marketing professionals focused on building strong relationships and sharing the story of the high-quality teaching and learning happening in Abilene ISD classrooms every day. He has been actively involved in TSPRA in a variety of roles, including Vice President, Conference Presenter, Curriculum Developer, Online Learning Leader, and Committee Member. A strong advocate for lifelong learning and professional development, Dr. Ziemer earned his accreditation in public relations in February 2026 and holds a PhD in organizational communications from Texas A&M University. He is a member of PRSA, INSPIR, and the Texas Association of School Administrators. Outside of work, he enjoys adventuring with his family, playing and listening to live music, and like many Texans, patiently waiting for the Dallas Cowboys to return from the football wilderness. Kevin Christian is accredited in public relations and a certified public relations counselor. He serves as a member of the Universal Accreditation Board, the very entity that awards the APR credential. He's a former state and local level chapter accreditation chair and currently serves as Vice President of Finance for the Florida Public Relations Association. Kevin holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Lee University and a master's in broadcast journalism from the University of Miami, Florida. Kevin works as the Director of Public Relations for Marion County Public Schools in Florida and has been with MCPS for 25 years. His efforts have landed his district in the local, state, and national award spotlights more than 120 times. Let's start our conversation today by learning more about the CPRC and academic credentials. Hi, Kevin and Jordan. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Good morning.
So, one of the things that we are looking at throughout this podcast series is sort of an overview of the things that are out there for PR practitioners to continue their professional growth and expand their knowledge around the field and the profession. And I know each of you has pursued both the APR and other credentials that are available out there in the industry and academics. And I thought we could start by giving our listeners a little bit of an idea about what kind of credentials each one of you has pursued and that you hold. So Kevin, I'll start with you on this one if you want to give people an idea of what your background is in terms of the credentials you've earned.
Sure. Well, obviously, a four-year college degree, a bachelor's degree in general communications, and I was actually what a lot of people will call a recovering journalist. And I was in television news for a number of years and obviously earned my master's degree in broadcast journalism and had planned to do a career in that chosen field, but the opportunity came along to move into the public relations sector. And I went into that PR job thinking, well, a credential, I already have a master's degree. Why do I need that? Yeah, I don't need that. So, and I felt that way for the longest time. And then suddenly I just had the epiphany one day of, well, goodness sakes, if the accreditation in public relations, the APR credential is available and out there, and that's the standard for this chosen industry, why wouldn't I want it? Much like the CPA would take the CPA exam, why wouldn't I strive to achieve the credential that is there for people in the field of public relations? So I did my 2 years of study sessions and individual study at lunch for a number of months and took my computer-based exam and failed it the first time and turned around and went back and took it again. And I earned that APR. And for me, it transformed the way I do my job. It taught me to look at things more strategically instead of, oh gosh, I've got this task. I just need to do this task, check it off, and move on to the next one. So it changed the way that I look at my chosen profession. Then on top of that, in Florida, the FPRA, Florida Public Relations Association, offers an advanced credential called the CPRC, which stands for Certified Public Relations Counselor. And that's a higher tier credential that has a requirement. First of all, you have to have your APR, and you have to be in public relations for at least 10 years, and you have to serve in a counseling capacity. You're not on the assembly line just writing a media release or doing media relations or messaging. You are actually counseling your executive team on communication matters, on PR matters. And so for me, that was the natural progression. I had my APR and then earned my CPRC 3 years later because I was 10 years into my position, more than 10 years into my position. And I report directly to my superintendent and I'm on the cabinet. So it was a perfect scenario for me to get a credential that not only proves that I know what I'm talking about, but kind of boosts your self-confidence too. It really helps you believe in yourself and helps others believe in not only what you're capable of, but what you have the ability to help others achieve.
That's great. And I know, Jordan, you have a slightly different path that you took in terms of the types of credentials that you pursued.
That's right. I started in academia. So, Kevin, I am a still recovering academic. I'm not sure that's going to, I think it's going to be a lifelong endeavor for me to recover from that one. But I will tell you that my journey in academia became really useful to me and still became useful. One of the things I want to make sure our listeners hear is if you are considering an advanced academic degree through a university, that is not a waste of time. We sometimes can trick ourselves into thinking we need those practice-based credentials because we are in such a practice-based field, especially the ones like Kevin was mentioning that position us as strategic advisors. But that does not mean that an academic style advanced degree is a waste of time, even for the PR practitioner who's hard at work trying to make a difference on a daily basis for your school district. So my journey was like Kevin, I have a 4 year undergraduate or bachelor's degree in a human communication. From there, my initial thought was that I was going to get into academia, into the academic pursuit of understanding communications and public relations. So I have a master's degree in organizational communication, and then wound up doing a 4 year research PhD at Texas A&M University in organizational communication as well. So I thought I'm gonna go from here and I'm gonna reach the academic mountaintop and I'm gonna live in this wonderful land of research and teaching and I did for a time. And I don't want to denigrate any of my colleagues who are in academia because I love those friends. I still have so many friends in that world and they do incredible, amazing work. For me, the journey was working with a graduate student one time who brought me a question that was very practical. She asked me to help an organization she was working with in a graduate project to solve a real world PR problem. And I just didn't have the practical tools to be able to answer her question effectively. So much of my family is in K-12 public education here in Texas. And so I started a career shift and found myself pretty quickly working in school public relations instead of doing research and teaching in communications. And we could chase that rabbit all day, but since we don't have time, this is a podcast. Essentially, the reason I decided to pursue my APR is after some time, what I realized my academic degrees gave me was all kinds of research and conceptual chops. And those are really important. I mean, if you're pursuing your APR, you know that understanding communication theory is part of the deal. Understanding how to take that theory and apply it to your research, that's part of the deal. So my graduate degrees became really useful because I had a handle on conceptual elements of our field and the research elements of our field pretty quickly. And for that, I'm very grateful. What I wanted to do was really develop my practical edge. I wanted to position myself as a strategic advisor to my superintendent and cabinet, just like Kevin mentioned. And I wanted to honor my relationships with other colleagues in the field who I had seen achieve the APR because through mentorship and working with NSPRA and TSPRA here in my state, I came to view that credential as a gold standard for practitioners who want to demonstrate not just their ability to do the job, but their understanding of the ethics that are required for the job, their understanding of what it means to elevate your organization through the public relations lane. Those kinds of things became really important to me. And in other words, I wanted to become the PR pro that I felt like my district deserved. And the APR was a pathway to capitalize on what I had built through my academic work and get me to that point of feeling like I walk in the door every day and I'm who my district really needs. I'm who my superintendent needs me to be. I'm a person who can sit at the table and advise and not just complete, if that makes sense. And so I started with one lens for myself, the APR, like Kevin said, so transformative, reshaped, rewired my brain completely, elevated the way that my team is able to lean on me as a resource and reshaped the way I'm able to navigate cabinet level conversations. And so I wouldn't change out my journey for anything, right? I wouldn't change any piece of it. And I would encourage those out there who are thinking through an academic degree to not view it as totally detached from the practical, because again, you have got to nail the research part of your work. And those academic degrees, your bachelor's and master's degrees, your graduate work, where you will lean into the research, I promise you will be valuable when you hit your APR.
I think I've heard both of you allude now to the idea that these things work in complement with each other. I'm wondering if you can dive a little bit more into that for our listeners about how these different credentials have worked together in your practice to be able to help you take your work to that next level.
I think APR, as I mentioned earlier, and as Jordan agreed, it teaches you a different way to look at your chosen profession. School PR, I think, is a unique career path because we're dealing with everything communications related that changes on a daily basis. I mean, there are cycles that we all experience, but really, you never know what's going to happen when you come into work in the morning. And APR teaches you to look at your job in a strategic manner. For me, APR not only taught me how to do that, but gave me the confidence to do it. Because I didn't look at my job very strategically prior to that. I was capable of doing my job, but I could have done it better and more effectively and more efficiently had I had that APR mindset beforehand. After achieving APR, moving to that next level credential of CPRC, that was the confidence building mechanism that not only got me to that executive table, but keeps me there. And that sounds self-serving, and I don't mean for it to. And Jordan, I see you nodding your head in agreement. It lends credibility because others recognize not just letters behind your name, but they do recognize that you kind of do understand what you're talking about and you have expertise in the field. And when you are, again, not denigrating anyone's position, but when you are spending 40 hours a week writing press releases or checking facts for something, that's really not what we're talking about here. That's a tactician. And APR and advanced degrees or advanced credentials and degrees kind of puts you on, you're in the balcony versus being on the dance floor. You know, you're in the balcony looking over saying, oh, you know what? See that activity over there? Here's what we really need to consider for that and what we need to do next. Because, and then you fill in the blank because you have that APR experience and that perspective of that credential that others don't have, especially if they're not in school PR. My superintendent is not a PR person. She's great with people, But when she has a PR question or a situation, she comes to me. And that's the way it should be, because she's trained in the academic world as a school administrator and now as a district superintendent. She leans on the team of people that she's surrounded herself with to help in their respective areas, mine being public relations. So whether it's media, whether it's family engagement, whether it's community relations, whatever the case might be, she's coming to me on a regular basis. And certainly that is validation for me, but it's also value in that I bring from this position to her team. And so it's invaluable in my opinion.
I totally agree with the elevation of the PR practitioner's role in the cabinet room being a crucial part of the APR. And I think that's also a linkage between the APR and other types of advanced credentials. When I earned my PhD, the most important thing the PhD has really ever done for me is open doors, right? It's open doors for me to be in certain conversations in certain spaces. It's open doors for me to sit at certain tables with other practitioners. Maybe they're academics, maybe they're not, but it's open doors for me to be in conversation and have respect in those spaces to participate as someone whose voice is valued in the room. The APR has done the same thing for me. It's just instead of leaning into the research world, it's earned me that elevated that level of respect in the practical world. One thing I encourage listeners to do, if you're considering your APR, you should think about working with your superintendent or executive team to educate them about the APR right now. It was very instructive for my superintendent to learn, for example, that the APR is a credential that's held by executives who work for, railroads or for Disney Cruise Lines or for other industries, other large organizations that are working through complex PR problems have PR practitioners in the leadership room with this credential. That is extremely meaningful for my superintendent because it means I'm bringing a level of experience, knowledge, strategic thinking that is outside just the world of school communications. And at least for my superintendent, that was incredibly important for him to view me as someone who has the ability to apply a strategic level of PR expertise across PR problems. That it kind of doesn't matter which PR problem I face. I've got a system for thinking, a strategic ability to apply a grounded ethical approach to navigating that problem. And so it kind of creates a sense of calm in the PR conversation with the superintendent because there's that confidence and trust and elevation of the position. I'll also say about the PhD and how it links to the APR. I mentioned a little bit about the research skills. Those are essential for navigating your APR. Good research helps you make better decisions, period, point blank, right? And I think we've learned that if we've been through the process. But I'll also say the evaluation phase is one that often gets short shrift. We leave evaluation out way too often. We do your research and you get a head full of steam. And then by the time you do the thing, the next thing has come along. I will say that the heavy emphasis on evaluating your own projects in graduate school is something I've been able to carry forward as well. Every good graduate student has been through that heavy self-reflective. Okay, now you wrote the thing, turn the mirror around and stare yourself in the face and write how bad you did. And the PR approach that you learn through the APR, the RPI process leans into that as well. It leans into don't ever stop the process of evaluation for continuous improvement into the next phase. So that's something that has carried those two pieces. I think it's interesting. The two things I've carried forward from my PhD are the two things we tend to leave out the most when we're trying to get PR work done. We leave out the research. Sometimes we don't do enough. We forget the evaluation or we just don't make space for it in the project. Those are the two things that going through graduate school taught me to learn how to do well. And so linking those together with understanding how to implement, right, to plan and implement more effectively has kind of made it a really nice marriage of credentials. So again, if you're thinking through that, or if you're in the graduate school phase, or you're considering both, you're not wasting your time, but thinking through how to both teach your executive team about the value of the APR and you do some critical thought time now about how you would put them together in the future will be valuable to you.
Christina, if I can just add to what Jordan said,
Absolutely.
interesting that he brought up the evaluation phase because I think for those of us in school PR, especially, we can evaluate, but part of what we don't do is how would we improve it or change it next time? And our world is so chaotic sometimes that we don't have time to go beyond, well, did it work or did it not work? And that's great knowing that it worked or it didn't work, but knowing why it worked and how you can make it better, or knowing why it didn't work and what you can do to change it so it will work in the future. That's a great lesson that the credentialing process teaches you.
I so agree. At the end of a good graduate school paper, there's an implication section. And what is the implication section supposed to be? It's your chance to say, here's what I learned, and my study went the way it did, or it didn't go the way I thought that it was going to. And what does it mean, right? What does it mean for the population that I'm studying? What does it mean for future researchers who want to try to maybe replicate this project? That way of thinking is exactly what the APR is asking you to do. They're just maybe different vocabulary involved. And so I totally agree with your sentiment there, Kevin, and encourage those of you who've been through graduate school, if you've got your master's degree and you're wondering, do I need the APR or not? The APR is going to help you double down on the importance of that implications-based thinking for future improvement. And it's so critical to good PR work.
And Jordan, you actually just stole my next question as part of your answer right there. Because what I was going to ask you both next is, you know, Jordan, I like how you talked about educating our superintendents and our, academic administrators about what the APR actually is. But I think there's still, even among PR practitioners, sometimes there is still the unknown of what the APR actually is, and the misunderstanding that if I have a master's degree, the APR is meaningless. And I'm curious if you had to give an elevator pitch to somebody who maybe was thinking that, I have a master's in strategic communications and I already went through all of this work. The APR would not mean anything for me. What would that elevator pitch sound like to try to tell them why the APR is still meaningful?
Am I going first? Kevin, are you going first?
Go ahead.
I think what I would say about the meaning of the APR is I would start with the value of ethics. I think that our master's degrees do a great job of teaching us the research process. And so I think sometimes what I would say to someone who's considering, I've got a master's degree, I'm worrying about APR, I would say your master's degree has taught you how to do good research. It has taught you how to maybe think strategically how you're going to approach a research project. But there are some pieces of the APR that are foundational to the field of work that I would encourage you to consider adding to your toolkit that you may not get in a master's degree program. And the emphasis on ethics and understanding why an ethical approach to your work is essential to making you the best strategic advisor you can be is something you may not get in your master's degree. That is a piece that I worked really hard to master when I was going through my APR process. I understood again some of the foundational elements of doing the art of doing RPI, of getting it done, but building into my spirit almost the ethical nature of our work and why it's so important for us to be ethical and for me to be able to answer that question about advocacy and honesty and integrity and independence and fairness, what do those words actually mean in the specific context of our day-to-day job? That is something that I needed the APR to help me master so that when I'm bringing forward the academic learning that I developed in my master's degree and in my doctoral work, I'm doing that with a different heart for the job. I'm doing it with a different heart for the field. I'm doing it as kind of with a transformed view of why those bedrock principles matter. And so I would say what the APR does, the master's degree elevates your knowledge and understanding. The APR keeps your feet on the ground. And that combination of things is extremely powerful to be able to soar as high as you need to with the high level thinking that a graduate degree will give you, but at the same time, keep those roots deep in the bedrock of the ethical foundations of our field, which the APR gives you. Having both is completely worth it to me. And I would encourage someone to think, okay, the master's degree has elevated my ability to think conceptually. The APR keeps my feet grounded in the roots of our field. And that combination is extremely powerful for you to be able to have high level strategic advising conversations because your roots don't shift because you know exactly where they're supposed to stay, and then you can pull forward the pieces of your master's and graduate work that can actually help you do the practice. So I would start there. I think that's just where my brain goes into where what did I get first? What was most meaningful for me in the APR immediately? And for me, it was the principled nature of it. It's not to say that a master's degree doesn't give you principles, but the APR is extremely principle laden. And knowing that I was also earning a credential that opened the doorway to a community of other practitioners who had those principles as their guide every single day was also important. So that'd be the last thing I'd say. And then, Kevin, I'll kick it over to you. The other piece of this would be it's not just personal ethics, they're communal ethics. And so your master's degree does not open that door for you the way that the APR will. And being able to sit in a room of other practitioners who have the APR credential and know we don't have to wonder where anybody's starting from an ethical standpoint is so critical. And I encourage you to not dismiss the personal development piece and also don't dismiss the doorway to a community of practitioners that the APR will open for you as well.
Jordan, I love your emphasis on ethics because that is what our profession is built on. If we don't have our reputation in a positive, solid way, then we need to choose another career, pure and simple. And APR provides an incredible founding experience for just that. But also, APR, I believe, enhances your reputation with your own school district, your own school community, and your own school superintendent. Superintendents are certified, teachers are certified. All these different professions have whatever certifications they have. And if public relations has a certification of APR or whatever the credential might be, why wouldn't you want it? Why wouldn't you want those letters, not just behind your name, but to clearly illustrate your commitment, not just to the profession, but to the ethical standards that you mentioned, Jordan, and to the professional standards to which we all aspire. It took me a number of years to get to that point, but that's the importance of it. I'll also take it from this perspective. You know, Tiger Woods, perhaps the world's greatest golfer of all time. The guy needs some public relations help. You know, he can certainly afford it. My college degrees taught me what to do and how to do it, but my APR really taught me why we need to do it. And that's where those ethical standards and those strong foundations come into play. And I really wish Tiger would hire a great PR person or a driver, either one, you know. But that's a clear world example to me right now of the importance of not just a PR person, again, who can write a press release and who can talk to the media, but understand why it's done, how it's done, and the importance of both of those for the long-term scenario.
I think great words of wisdom from both of you on that. And I thank you both for coming on and joining us today to give our listeners a little bit more information about not just the APR, but the other credentials that are available and the ways in which they can complement each other as we all try to do the work that we do for our districts. So thank you both for joining me today.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Next, let's hear about the CPC credential. Megan Overman is in her 26th year in public school communications and marketing roles and has served the diverse and unique communities of 4 North Texas school districts in her tenure. Recently, in July 2025, she joined Birdville ISD as the Chief Communications Officer, bringing her career full circle in returning to the district where her school PR career began. In Birdville ISD, she leads district and campus-level strategic communications, crisis response, community engagement initiatives, and year-round marketing efforts. A member of the executive leadership team, she serves as a direct advisor to the superintendent, cabinet, and district and campus leadership, and contributes to district-level decisions and implementation. She directs activities of a 7-person department that includes a multi-platform, multifaceted communication strategy designed to support and further the internal and external engagement, recruitment, and retention goals of the district. She assists campus and district leaders in promoting effective communication through training, mentoring, and support, and serves as lead crisis communicator for district and campus situations. Prior to joining Birdville ISD, she served in communications roles in the Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, Grapevine, Colleyville, and Keller school districts, following nearly 10 years as a newspaper reporter and editor in 3 states. Megan holds a bachelor's in journalism with a minor in economics from Oklahoma State University. She earned an accreditation in public relations, the highest professional advancement for a communications professional, is a graduate of the Certified Public Communicator, or CPC program at Texas Christian University, and holds a certification in reputation management from the Public Relations Society of America. She also is certified in the FEMA National Incident Management System and Incident Command System, as well as Texas Open Government courses. She is a member of the National School Public Relations Association and the Texas School Public Relations Association, of which she served as president of the organization for 2023 to 2024, after 2 terms as a regional vice president and multiple committee chair and membership appointments. She also served multiple terms on the CPC Board of Directors. She has won multiple awards for various projects from both organizations, including several Best of Category awards and Crystal Commendations, and has presented at the state and national conferences on multiple occasions. She is also active in the local Chamber of Commerce, Lions, Rotary, and civic and community events. Megan has lived in North Texas for the past 27 years. She and her husband, Todd Overman, have 2 sons, one who is graduating in May from the University of Texas at Arlington, and another who is a high school graduate and in the workforce. They are members of the Hills Church in Fort Worth. They enjoy spending time together hiking, boating, working on home improvement projects, and spoiling their diva dogs, Molly and Daisy. Let's talk to Megan. Hi, Megan. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for the invite.
So let me start by just understanding what credentials it is that you hold within the world of public relations.
Okay, so I have been in public relations, specifically focused on public schools, in my 26th year of experience in public schools. Within that, I've had the opportunity to earn my CPC designation, Certified Public Communicator designation, through the Texas Christian University program, nationwide program that they have. And then after I received my CPC, I went in and got my APR.
We have been talking a lot throughout this podcast so far about the APR in particular, but the CPC is not something that I've heard a lot about. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the CPC is? Is the process similar to the APR? Is it very different from the APR?
Absolutely. The CPC is actually very different from the APR. They both have common goals to build strategic thinkers, strategic communication planners, and strategic communications professionals, but they approach them in different ways. So the CPC program was founded as part of the Texas Christian University, kind of it's almost I would say a master's level or an advanced level course, but you don't have to enroll in the university to take it. You apply for the program. It's a specific program through the Strategic Communications Office at TCU, and it serves nonprofits and specifically towards nonprofits, communicators nationwide. And it is a year-long program. So the first summer, you spend a week on campus and you go to class. You sit with those professors and they walk you through activities, very hands-on. You're talking more theory and building conceptual concepts and really laying some foundations for good communications planning. Throughout the fall, so that's in the summer, is a week-long on-site program. And then that fall, you're assigned a mentor, a professor mentor, and you work to build, you have assignments throughout, and you work to build the pieces of a communications plan. And then you do a mid-year check-in in January. It's like a weekend, and you come back to campus, or sometimes they do it virtually, depending on what's going on. And it's about a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday morning. And they check in and specifically talk about research and building the strengths and the cores of your research as part of your planning. You also have drafts of your plans that are due at that time, and you continue to work throughout the spring to finalize those. You come back at the next year, so they overlap cohorts. So you go in as one cohort, you go throughout the year, and then as you're coming in for your second summer, there's a new cohort that's starting. And so that cohort starts the base level work that you did in the year prior, and you're coming in and finalizing and getting the upper level work. So it gets into the philosophy, the crisis training. There's a whole day on crisis training and things like that. So it's very, very hands-on. At the end of it, you have a comprehensive communications plan in hand that you can go and use in your organization.
That sounds like an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, after having gone through that whole process and earning that credential, what made you decide to then go on and pursue the APR?
Maybe I'm a little crazy. Maybe APR has always been something that I have aspired to. I have friends and mentors who poured into me that were APR minded and have their APRs as well. And so they've always encouraged me to do that. CPC was an incredible experience for me because it built the foundations and really solidified a lot of the things that I had learned through my experience, but didn't really have names for or terminology on how to use and processes on how to use them. So it helped solidify that communications planning process. Having that communications plan, that real RPI based focus, really lent itself to go ahead and complete my APR because I was 85% there already. So having that has been really, really crucial because it took the tactical work, the strategic planning work that I did, and it turned into strategic thinking and theory work. So now I can blend the two of those as I'm advising, as I'm planning, as I'm working with my communications and community leaders and my superintendent and cabinet to make sure that we are being strategic and thinking about our behavioral outcomes that we're working towards.
So it sounds like you have found these two things to really complement each other.
Oh, I would agree. For me, it works really well. I'm a crammer. I was never really great at test taking in school. And so being able to have a plan and have people walk me through that comprehensive planning process and get me really, really solid in that helped me get ready for the APR process, which is more individualized. So I would say the CPC, people walk beside you in that one. You have a professor mentor, you have a cohort that you work with, you really bond with these people as you're building your plan and your experience. APR is a little more individually driven. And so there are great cohorts through INSPRA, great cohorts through the regions that I would definitely encourage people to be a part of. But the motivation is individual there. You don't have anybody pushing you going, hey, are you going to get this done? Unless you have a really good mentor, right? So it's on you to make sure that you get your panel scheduled. It's on you to make sure that you're utilizing your mentor and asking the tough questions to make sure you're ready. And it's on you to go in and pass that test. And only you can study for that.
Is there a certain career path that you think lends itself to one over the other? Or is there something where you would look at somebody's resume or future career plans and say to them, the CPC makes sense for you, or the APR makes sense for you, but maybe both don't make sense?
I would say that it's less career path focused, in my opinion, in my line of work, as it is your individual style and what you individually can get out of it. I know people that are CPC that went through and got their CPC because that's the foundations that they really needed. And they might go for APR later, but CPC was where they wanted to start because maybe they're like me. They need somebody that's going to walk them through that process, not quite the motivated studier, if you will. But then there are other people that maybe will look at a master's program or a PhD program because they just love to be in school and they're just really good at it. And they just really get a lot out of that type of a lecture or a some sort of environment that you would get out of that. And that's okay too. I think the key piece here is that it's not always which path you choose. It's that you are continuously working to improve yourself professionally. And I think that would be the key goal.
I love that. That's always a good goal for anybody to have, is to constantly be getting better at what we do. Looking back on the whole thing, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I feel like the path that I went through was really good for me. And that's what I always tell people when they ask me, which one would you do? What should I do? Well, I can't answer that question because it is very, very personal. If I were to do it differently, I would have done it sooner. Again, I'm in my 26th year, and it took me probably 20 years to get into the mode. I'm working with someone right now on their APR, and that person wrote in their questionnaire that, the first question is, why do you want to do your APR? Why do you want to do this now? And it was like, I've been trying to do this this is my third attempt at this, not because I went through it and I passed and failed. It's because I started it, but then life got in the way, and life is always going to get in the way. And it's just, you have to decide at what point in your career, in your family life, and how all of those things fit together. Can you fit this in to continue to better yourself? So for me, I would have done it a little sooner, looking back on it, but also, if you have little kids and you have life that you're working, or you have crazy, people are changing, bosses are changing and things like that, then you have those things to consider as well, because what you don't want to do is try to start something and then not have the ability to finish that.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Megan, so much for joining us today to teach us a little bit more about the CPC and to share your experience.
Well, I appreciate it. And I do just encourage everyone to look at all of the options. There are so many options available, and there are so many of us that are willing to step in and help you, because we want to see everyone continue to grow and succeed, because it's good for the profession all the way around.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Shaping Strategy, the APR Journey, is a limited series podcast from the National School Public Relations Association, produced in partnership with INSPRA's Accreditation Committee. Be sure to visit inspra.org for more information about accreditation in public relations, membership information, professional development resources, and more.